Steve Alley served as a commercial diplomat for 29 years. Over his career as a Foreign Commercial Service officer, Steve helped countless U.S. companies expand into new markets, promoted foreign direct investment into the United States, and advocated on behalf of U.S. firms facing regulatory challenges or unfair treatment in overseas markets. As a minister counselor for commercial affairs, Steve led some of the largest Commerce Department trade and investment promotion offices in the world. Steve served in Mexico twice, from 2010 to 2015, and again from 2020 to 2023. In Mexico, the U.S. largest trading partner, Steve led multi-agency embassy efforts to secure almost $1 billion in U.S. contracts for port scanning equipment, effectively checking China's involvement in North American critical infrastructure. Steve received his grad degree from the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies and his undergrad degree from Boston University. He is professionally fluent in both Spanish and French, and formally fluent in Malaysian and Greek. He was born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and attended Baylor High School, class of 1979. Please help me in welcoming Steve Alley.
Thank you very much, Ava, for the introduction. Thank you, Chris and Alex, for the invitation to be here. I can't tell you how excited I am to be back at Baylor after all these years, actually decades, and back in Chattanooga as well, as Ava said, the city where I was born and raised. My mother, my stepfather, and my wife are all with me this morning. They're all wondering just why Baylor invited me back today. In fact, I can tell you exactly what my mother's thinking right now. She's wondering how long Baylor keeps its disciplinary records. So I'm here to talk to you about careers in international relations and international business. And I understand the student population now is much more diverse than when I attended. And also, importantly, the school I attended a long time ago was called the Baylor School for Boys. So obviously there has been a change. I just retired from my career with the Commerce Department as a Foreign Service Officer, Foreign Commercial Service Officer. In fact, today is my very first day in retirement, and this is what a way to start. As you can imagine, there are a lot of very different career paths that lead overseas. You all know the State Department. It issues visas to foreigners who want to travel or immigrate to the U.S., and it helps out U.S. citizens who are in tough situations overseas. The Agency for International Development does just that. It funds programs that seek to contribute to economic growth in developing countries. I just left my last assignment, as Ava said, in Mexico City 2 months ago, where there are 62 different U.S. government offices that make up what's called the Embassy Country Team. These include the Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Aviation Administration, Centers for Disease Control, Foreign Agricultural Service, Defense Department, Social Security Administration, Department of Labor, and even the Fish and Wildlife Service. And I mention these because at least I don't typically think of these organizations as having personnel overseas. So there are a lot of ways to get there. But this morning I want to focus on business. And it's arguably the single most important way in which we engage with other societies, cultures, and countries. And my former organization, called the Foreign Commercial Service, is a very small part of the Commerce Department. It consists of a little more than 200 Foreign Service officers and around 1,500 total staff, mostly foreign industry experts. And we don't have a presence in every country like the State Department does. We're in about 80 locations overseas, principally in those places and countries with which we have a lot of trade. We do three things. We help especially small and medium-sized companies expand into new markets overseas. We help larger Fortune 500 type companies who are facing regulatory challenges or possibly unfair treatment. in overseas markets. And 3, we promote foreign direct investment back into the United States, of which the Volkswagen plant off of Bonnie Oaks Drive here in Chattanooga is a good example. My organization is also somewhat unusual among federal agencies in that we charge companies for the services we provide. For example, helping U.S. companies find local business partners. So collectively, this type of work is known as trade and investment promotion. But there are so many other facets of international business that you can get involved in. I'm just going to give a couple of examples. Standards, for example, sets technical requirements for hundreds of thousands of products. Are you all aware? You probably are, but are you aware that Apple iPhone chargers are about to change? Do you know why they're about to change? It's not because Apple invented a better one or even wants to make a change. And so all of the existing chargers that you currently have, you're going to be throwing them out sooner or later. And the reason is because the European Union has decided that all small rechargeable devices, not just those belonging to Apple, but all, will use a single type of charger. It's a great example of what I would describe as benign global competition to set standards, often those that favor homegrown companies. Intellectual property and trademark protection is another area. The World Wrestling Federation changed its name to World Wrestling Entertainment last year after it lost a trademark infringement case filed by the UK-based WWF. And this is not a British version of the World Wrestling Federation, it is the World Wildlife Fund. In China, Huawei lost a case filed by the famous Minnesota manufacturer 3M after Huawei launched a company that directly competes with 3M and named it 3N. So for me, being a commercial diplomat was tremendously rewarding. You have a lot of independence. You interact with important U.S. and foreign dignitaries and business leaders. My boss in Mexico was Ambassador, and he currently still is, Ambassador Ken Salazar, former senator from the state of Colorado, former Secretary of Interior under the Obama administration. But you brief visiting senators, congressmen, and CEOs on a regular basis. Also, I think it's important to note that as a career professional, my job didn't change with each election, each U.S. election. So the higher levels of our government, think cabinet level secretaries like Gina Raimondo, Secretary of Commerce, they're collectively known as political appointees and change with each administration. Overseas, ambassadors are usually the only political appointees at embassies. And about 1/3 of our embassies overseas have political ambassadors. The rest are all career. So you have to be resilient and adaptable. The ability to speak foreign languages is obviously important. And thanks to long-term language training, which pretty much only the US government provides, I became professionally fluent in Bahasa Melayu, Malaysia's language, Greek, and French and Spanish. How many of you are citizens of other countries besides the US? Yeah, quite a few. So you all know that picking up cultural cues and customs and courtesies quickly is really key. In Mexico, for example, when you enter a room, you should go around and say hello to everyone in the room individually before the meeting starts. When you get out of an elevator, with other people still in it, it's polite to ask permission to get out. So why business? I mean, are we just talking about helping companies and perhaps ourselves get rich? I mean, where's the nobility in that? So Calvin Coolidge was reported to have said the business of government is business. And he didn't say exactly that, but the gist of what he said, I think, was spot on. Democracies offer as their principal reason for existence an environment in which its citizens can work, grow, save, and prosper. I don't believe you can separate economic freedom from political freedom and vice versa. Democracies are supposed to deliver peace and economic growth, providing for our basic needs and supporting our health and material comfort. So all those of you who have studied economics know that this growth can come from different sources. It can be increases in productivity driven by tech innovation, for example. It can be increases in inputs if the population grows, for example. But it also, an important way, another key driver of this growth is trade. And that's why a study of economics is a requirement for many, if not all, advanced degrees in international relations. So I feel fortunate to have had such an exciting career. This happened before all of you were born, but in Malaysia, I lived through the Asian financial crisis of the late 90s, and almost overnight, Kuala Lumpur's roads, Kuala Lumpur is the capital, congested roads became empty. In Brussels, I worked at the U.S. mission to the European Union and witnessed the early years of growth of a remarkable phenomenon, and that is watching now 27 independent countries voluntarily give up sovereignty in order to join a union of European democracies. I experienced the global financial crisis, the Great Recession of 2008 in Athens, Greece, where some of the first cracks in the global financial plumbing emerged. Some of you may know that Greece would shortly present the first serious test of the European Union's cohesion. By effectively refusing to cut government spending and borrowing, it threatened to bring down what at the time was a relatively new currency, the euro. During my time in Paris, we began urging Europe to diversify its energy sources to reduce its dependence on Russian gas. With a few exceptions, Poland being the most notable, our entreaties to buy more expensive liquefied natural gas from the United States were dismissed, with consequences we are all now aware of. In Mexico, I helped companies do business with our largest trading partner and navigate two mega trends that are working at cross purposes. On the one hand, Mexico is a natural beneficiary of nearshoring U.S. investment right now. It has the advantages of geographical proximity and access to duty-free trade with the U.S., lower labor costs, shorter supply chains. At the same time, Mexico's president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, has promoted overtly anti-business policies that include even renationalization of private assets. So you can look at the last 75 years or so as a great push by democracies, led by the U.S., to globalize trade and prosperity, beginning with the rebuilding of post-World War II Germany and Japan. China's opening up of its closed economy in the late 70s and later joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, those were huge events. Similarly, the fall of the Berlin Wall in '89 and the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, just a few years later. You all, however, are inheriting a world that has only recently shifted course, with one of the first concrete steps being the U.S. administration's levying of tariffs on Chinese imports several years ago. Globalization started running out of steam over a decade ago, and there have been no advancements in liberalizing multilateral trade since. And joining the world economy did not make for a more open, freer, democratic society based on the rule of law in China, as everyone hoped. China's state-directed economy continues to distort trade with massive subsidies, organized theft of technology and intellectual property, and coercion of U.S. and other foreign businesses that want access to China's domestic market. In fact, what you all face now is a global resurgence of more autocratic regimes from Latin America to Russia and China. Are any of you all familiar with the terms reshoring, nearshoring, ally shoring, or friend shoring? We're at the beginning of a long-term trend of remaking our far-flung and complex supply chains in the business world less vulnerable, but at the cost of economic efficiency. We're leveraging U.S. involvement in global semiconductor manufacturing and supply chains to restrict advanced technology in this area. Export controls, supply chain, logistics, and cybersecurity are the new international career opportunities. I know it's early, especially for you freshmen and sophomores. I don't think I gave any thought to how I would make a living when I was at Baylor. And proof of that was my decision to major in philosophy in college. Even more embarrassing were numerous aborted attempts to find adventure by hitchhiking to New Orleans to try and get a job with the Merchant Marine, for example. What I can tell you is there was no better preparation for my career than the education Baylor provided. I mean, the ability to think critically, to communicate succinctly and persuasively, and work as part of a team. These are all critical skills that will serve you well no matter what career path that you choose. So with that, I want to wish you all the best in your future endeavors and with your time left at Baylor, and I'd be delighted to discuss in more detail anything you want to with respect to international careers now or over lunch. So thank you very much this morning.